All right, guys, I am happy to have on the line the Carr family. How are you guys doing tonight?
Good.
Great.
Good. It's good to see you. I don't normally do the video, but I just thought it'd be kind of neat to just see everybody. We got a few folks on here. So I'm going to go ahead and just, Patrick, if you want to introduce everybody and yourself, who are you guys and tell us a little bit about yourselves.
Okay, I'm Patrick Carr. I'm 34 years old. I live in Muskegon, Michigan, which is a western part of Michigan. Sitting to my right is my grandpa. He's the guy that got me into hunting back. I don't know. I was processing deer, butchering deer before I could even shoot them. Here in Michigan, I couldn't start shooting deer until I was 12 years old.
Okay.
But they had me at the table, him and my grandma, processing deer and putting them in the freezer.
Cool.
He had me on recurve bows. I'm sure back when I was younger, I remember a picture of me pulling back a little recurve bow. I think when I was 6 or 7, back in their backyard in town there.
Yeah.
Right, 3. 3 years old. I'm wrong. Okay.
He would remember.
he definitely has a better memory about that stuff than I do. And then I got my oldest daughter, Avery. She's 12 years old. This was her second year hunting this past season, and she's getting really patient and looking for them deer. She waited all weekend until she pulled the trigger, so that's good for her.
And Avery, what grade are you in?
7th.
7th grade. All right, cool. And who is to your left? Who is that over there? Last but not least.
This little blondie here is my youngest daughter, Hannah. She's 10 years old. She's been hunting the last 2 seasons too. She loves being out in the woods. I can't go out in the woods or outside, do anything without her wanting to take along, no matter what I'm doing.
Yeah. So this is a family thing. So this love of hunting is kind of a family deal, right?
Oh yeah.
That's awesome. Well, I'm excited to hear your guys' stories tonight. So I know that it's 8:30 and it's a school night. So girls, I think what we'll do is maybe I'll have you guys kind of tell some of your stories to kind of kick us off here. And then if you guys got to go to bed and get ready for school, that's cool. And then I'll talk to Dad and Grandpa here a little bit more. Does that sound good?
Yeah.
All right. So girls, let's talk a little bit about, I always get people's background. How did you guys get excited about hunting? Not all girls like it. Not all boys do either. But how did you guys decide you liked hunting? We'll start with Avery. Go ahead.
So we started out going out in the blinds with my dad and watching him hunt. And I went out with my grandma, Kathy, a couple times. And we've just really enjoyed sharing the experience with our dad.
Yeah. Pretty special.
Mm-hmm.
What does your dad do when you're in the blind? Does he give you, like, back when you were younger, did he make you like just sit there and be quiet, or did he bring like games, food? How did he make that fun for you guys? Do you remember?
Well, sometimes he would bring like his phone out and he'd let us like play games on his phone. But sometimes me and Hannah would just sit out there with him and be quiet. It was hard at the time when we were littler to be quiet, but we got through it.
Very good.
That's a good way to put it. I just took my 5-year-old daughter and my 8-year-old foster daughter that we have living with us right now, and we went out to the blind the other night, and I brought like a bag of goodies. So we had coloring books and stickers, and then eventually I went to the iPad, and each of them had like a little headphone and all that, and these deer came in. And at that moment, I'm just like, okay, don't move. Shh, you're doing a good job. Don't move. And it was just that excitement of, just watching deer come in. So, Hannah, what's been like your favorite part about being in a blind?
So the way that started out, when I was like 3 years old, I would sit on the counter and watch my dad butcher, and sometimes I would help him, and with the grinder and stuff. And then he brought me out with him, and we kept on sitting in a blind like Avery did. And we kept on just sitting in a blind hunting, and I would sit there and play on his phone with little headphones in and stuff.
So your favorite part about hunting was playing on my phone? That's what I was getting out of that. No.
It passes the time, man. It does. I do it sometimes, but I try not to. I really try and just enjoy the nature and all that. But sometimes long times between seeing squirrels and deer. It's I understand that. So I heard that you guys found some success last year. So I'd kind of like to dive into what happened last year for both of you.
Okay.
We have a youth season here. I'll start off with that. It's at the end of September. This year is September 11th, the weekend of September 11th. You want to go ahead and tell them what happened last year, your first season?
Yeah.
Okay.
So last year we had 4 people all together in one small castle blind. It was me, my uncle, my grandma, and my 5-year-old cousin.
Oh man.
Well, she's now 6, but so we were just sitting out there. We didn't have much luck. We didn't see anything. We were watching out the windows, playing around with my little cousin. And all of a sudden, these 2 does come out. And so I asked my uncle. First, I sat on his lap because I couldn't get to the spot to shoot. So I sat on his lap, told me to, and I asked him, what one should I shoot? He told me the one to the right because it looked bigger. And so I was shaking a lot and I don't think I can do it. I don't think I can do it. But then I just had this feeling in my gut that they all had a lot of faith in me. So I pulled the trigger and it dropped like a fainting goat, and then jumped back up and ran into the brush.
Whoa.
But I didn't right away go tracking for it. I had to go to the bathroom. So I went down to the bathroom, and my dad and my uncle tricked me, saying they weren't going to track it, but they did. They tracked it, and then when I came back down, they already knew where it was, but when I came back down, they made me follow the blood, and I found it behind the brush, and I went underneath the barbed wire, and it was right there.
Oh, that's awesome. So it didn't go very far at all, did it?
No.
So that sounds like you made a good shot.
Yeah.
That's awesome, Avery. That's very cool. So how do you feel about getting your first deer down?
Good. I was very happy. My dad came speeding the truck down, hopped out of the car, and gave me a big hug.
Oh, that's awesome. That's really cool. Well, so you have success. Now let's go over to Hannah. So last year, now did Avery get her deer first?
No, actually I didn't.
Oh, okay, so you kind of broke the ice. So Hannah, how did that go for you? Tell me about your hunt.
Within 45 minutes of each other, though.
Oh, same day. Wow.
Same day. Yep.
All right, so we're going to go back in time. We're going to go back in time from this hunt just a little bit, 45 minutes. And what happens with you, Hannah?
Okay, so what had happened was my dad had just picked me up from my cousin's house because I went to go hang out with them because it was kind of boring. So I went to go hang out with them, and he picks me up and he's like, "Oh, we gotta get this pop up down there." And he said, "We don't have time for this though, so we're just gonna grab chairs and I'm gonna find a tree down there that we can go sit at near the hunting place though." So we found a tree, sat down, and I was kind of starting to move around and stuff. So he gave me his headset, and I listened to music. And I was looking the other way, still looking, and then he was looking this way, and he's like, "Yeah, there's a doe." And
So
I'm like,
you're not in a blind.
"Nope."
Oh, okay. So you're just up in the woods. Wow, that's exciting.
And he's like, "There's a doe right here," and I'm just like, "That's a big doe." And then I said, "Can I shoot it?" And he said, "Yep." And what had happened was I was too scared to shoot it, so I'm like, "Dad, you have to shoot it for me." And he said, "Nope, this is your hunt and you want to put dinner on our table." And since we were just out in the open, he had to hold the gun. So because I couldn't hold it up myself, I was scared that I was going to drop it or something. So he was holding it up and I'm like, "You ready?" And he said, "Yep." And then it dropped right in its tracks.
Oh,
I had to hold the barrel of her gun like a rest. And she put it in the scope and everything and pulled the trigger and did the rest of it. I just had to give her some kind of rest at the barrel.
Yeah. It's hard to hold those up sometimes, Hannah.
Yeah, that doe came out within 30 yards of us. It was right on top of us, and we were sitting at the base of a maple tree.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, it was a good time.
So Hannah, how do you feel? I asked your sister, so I gotta be fair. So how do you feel about your first deer down right there with your dad?
I was really happy. I actually started to cry.
Yeah. Why cry? Just emotional about the experience and excited.
Yeah, I was emotional and happy.
Yeah, it's an awesome feeling to get that first deer and experience that and experience it with family. So that's a really cool year you guys had. That's really exciting.
That was 2020.
So what happened this year?
Yeah.
So
I see smiles. They like lit up.
It was a fun year.
Let's hear the story.
wait, I should go first because I got mine first. All right, go ahead.
All right, back over to Hannah. Hannah's gonna go again.
Okay, so I got picked up from my cousins, and we got our new blind up, and so we went out to our new blind because we thought we would have good luck there because I was the first person. No, actually, in the morning hunt, it started in Rogers Fields, and so we were just sitting down hunting in that blind, and a big buck came out in front of us, and I'm like, "What?" And he's like, "Hey, get your scope up." And I'm telling you, that blind is super wobbly. Like every movement that you would make, the blind would shift. So he was standing up and he was like holding my shoulders, whispering in my ear, "Hey, get that in your scope and pull your trigger when you're ready. Get that in the scope, pull the trigger when you're ready." And he's like shaking the whole blind and shaking my body. I shot once, I missed. And we had enough time to reload. And then I shot the second time and I missed again.
Oh no.
So, and then we had a doe and a yearling come out in front of us, and the yearling came so close to us that you could only see its ears.
Hold on, sweetheart. That buck got away. That one got out to about 150 yards. I want to let her do it again. I mean, two shots, 150 yards, a little bit farther out.
Wait, can I add something?
No.
Because it was when I seen that the same buck when I was looking out of the back of, because I was in the one that I shot my first deer out of. No, but though, yeah. So I was looking out the blind and I seen it crossing going that way from where they were at. They were down there and it was coming from this way.
You seen the same buck? It got away though. What happened with those does, sweetheart?
Okay, so we could barely see the yearling. We could only see its ears, and then the doe was like further out. But the first day we were just based on shooting bucks since it's our second year hunting. So my dad's like, "You can't shoot that one. Let's see if something else will pop out. You can't shoot that one." And it was kind of small too, so I just wouldn't shoot it. And they ran off because they got spooked by something. I had no clue what it was, but they ran off, and the doe, I think it came up behind us and started to blow. And then after a few minutes passed by, we were just like, "All right, nothing's gonna come," and it was like time to go back to the house anyways. So we just went up to the house, and then we came back out for the evening hunt, but we went to a different blind. And the way that we were set up, he was looking one way, looking out this way, and I was looking this way. And I saw a deer pop up, and I'm just like, "This is a big body deer. I might want to shoot it," but it was way too far out for me to shoot it. And then he said, "Hey, I got one on my side, but it's way closer for you to shoot." So I stand up because I had to stand up because of the way that my chair was. It was too high. And then, so I couldn't do that. So I had to stand up, and he thought it was going this way, which it was actually going this way. So I had my gun up, set, and ready to shoot out of that way. And then, so after I got my gun set up and ready, I looked back over from where it came from, and it was just like, it was kind of like in the brush, but I could see it. I'm like, "Dad, it's over here now." So I went back to that. I went over to that spot, and then it was still in the brush, but it was like working on its way coming out.
Yeah.
And then he said, let me look at it to see if it's a buck." And he looks through it, and he's like, "It's a buck, Hannah, get over here." So I walked over there, and it was coming out, coming out. I looked in the scope, looked back up, looked in the scope, looked back up, like constantly. And then it finally came out into the open, and it would keep on moving. So my dad went, "Mer," and it stopped, looked at us, and then I shot, and it dropped right in its tracks. But I was like, we were having a happy moment, and all of a sudden, like we looked back out there, and it was like moving, trying to get away. And he's like, "Hannah, hurry up, we gotta go out there now." And so we went up there, and it was a pretty nice buck, and it still had its summer coat and velvet on.
Oh, wow. That's awesome.
That's only my second year and my first buck.
Oh, congratulations, Hannah. That's an exciting hunt, especially, I mean, you overcame, missing one. So you missed one and then you came back and you figured out a way to get it done. Congratulations. That's awesome.
The funny thing is they were picking on me because I missed one. And then they're like, "We're not going to stop picking on you until you get a buck." So, and then I got that buck and I'm like, "Ha." Yeah, because they only had to pick on me for a few hours.
Well, it's good you didn't have to wait a whole year for that. That's really good. And you might just ask any of them if they've ever missed ever,
Guilty.
Guilty. Very guilty. Very guilty.
Yep.
All right. That's exciting, Hannah. That's very cool. So, Avery, we're back over to you. Now, I noticed you just yawned a little bit during your sister's story. So I know you're excited to tell yours, right?
Yeah.
All right. So what went down for you this year?
It's contagious.
So first day we were up at my grandma's in Big Rapids, and I went out with my uncle in the morning. Was it? Mm-hmm. The morning hunt, and we went we just sat in the hay behind a trailer, and we didn't have any luck really. So then just we were watching and stuff. We seen some up in the woods, but they wouldn't come down. I think they were some doe. But then for the evening hunt, there was two little spikes, only 2 points, and they were by apple tree. The actual apple tree was way far, but in front, so we could clearly see them. But I told them I wanted to pass, and so then there was this big doe we think it was a fawn. There was some fawns too, but there was also a doe, but it was a small doe, so I passed on that too. And then the next day in the morning, me and my dad, because my uncle left the night before, and me and my dad went to Roger's Blind, and we were watching out the windows and stuff, and we didn't have any luck. And then my dad said, "Why don't we go take a quiet walk to see if we can see anything?" Right as my dad got up and could see out of the top of the door, he seen 4 bucks.
Whoa!
Right next to us. They were what were they? Spikes?
Between spikes and 4 points.
Spikes and 4 points. And so I sat back down and I grabbed my gun and I put it on the rest. And I got one in the head point, for a headshot, but then it kept on going down to eat something, so I couldn't get it. But then so we didn't have any luck either that night, but it was pretty cool to see 4 bucks at once. And then that evening hunt, me and my dad went out in a different blind, and we were out there maybe a half an hour, 40 minutes, right?
That's a good hour.
Yeah, an hour. And all of a sudden this ginormous doe comes out from the swampy area, and it walks out broadsided, and perfect for me to shoot. And I get up the gun, I find it in the scope perfectly, and I say, "Can I shoot it?" And he said, "Yeah, go," and then bang!
And it did the little shiver, and Dad's like, "Yep, it's down, it's down. She's getting down."
Did
Oh,
that
that's
head,
awesome.
did that head deer buckle and then took off.
Mhm.
She only ran about 30 yards.
And my dad's like, "That's perfect shot."
That's great. Well, congratulations. So 2
you.
years and 2 deer down for each of you. That's really exciting. And a buck in the mix too. So that's really cool. Wow. So you girls, are you done for the year or is there more hunting for you coming up?
More. I think
More.
rifle season.
Yep. They get their rifle season. I get bow season. The deal is I'll get bow season, then I'll put the bow down for rifle season, which opens up November 15th for us up here.
Very
So
cool.
I'll put the bow up and let them hunt.
Before the girls go off to bed, Dad, Steve, Grandpa Steve, how do you guys feel about these girls and what they're doing in their first couple years of hunting here?
Feels real good. I'm glad that, everything that I put into this hunting for the kids has come back tenfold.
Yeah. It sounds like you got some good places to hunt too. I mean, you've got deer to get on, which is exciting.
Yep. They put a little more restrictions. The state put some restrictions on us more, but it makes us all learn to be a little bit more patient out there. And the kids are doing really good at being patient and waiting. And they get to pick what they want to shoot usually.
Yeah, that's cool. I respect that. Them choosing to pass on some deer and kind of learning, okay, if I pass on this, and maybe I could get something a little bit bigger and just enjoy the hunt. So, girls, that's really awesome. I'm really proud of you. Congratulations on your deer
Thank
this
you.
year, and I wish you good luck on the rest of the season. All right. All right. Well, I will let you guys roll. I'm going to talk to Patrick and Steve now. So, girls, we'll see you guys later on. If you got to run to bed, I don't know if you got to leave now. All right.
Yep.
See you.
Good night, girls.
Good night, Daddy.
Love you guys.
All right.
Sure. Good.
All right. So now on the hot seat, we got Patrick and Grandpa Steve. I can just call you Steve if that's all right.
That's good.
Okay. All right. So, Patrick, you mentioned that Steve kind of got you into hunting and kind of was the foundational parts. Talk a little bit more about that. Like, what did that look like? What was the process? Do you remember some of those first hunts? Stories that kind of surround that.
There's no kind of about it. My grandpa and my grandma were definitely the ones that got me in the woods. My dad was always, do your grades. My dad's a car guy, likes working on cars. So I spent a lot of time in the shop working on cars. But anytime I could go in the woods, my grandpa and grandma always brought me up to. We started off hunting in this little a camper up in the north of us, about an hour and a half or so. Had the blinds all named, all the spots named. So we had North End, we had the castle blind, we had the beehive blind, we had the grandma's camper, we had behind Frank's house.
Yep.
Stump blind.
The stump blind, just we know.
Igloo blind.
Yep. By the age of 12 years old, I knew the blinds. I knew where they were at. I knew the names.
Yeah.
Some of my favorite hunts. We'll just talk about my first deer with a gun. My first deer period. I was 14, and Grandpa set me out. I think I used Grandma's 30 or 243 at that time. I think that was my first one.
I think so.
He sat me down in the beehive blind, and he's like, "Go ahead and sit here." At that time we could bait here in Michigan, and we had a bait pile set up. And he went around to the north end, which is about earshot away from me, but over a ridge and through some swamps. You had to walk a little ways to get over there. And I'm sitting there, and I can't remember how many deer came down, but there's at least 5 or 6 deer that came down to this bait pile. And I'm excited. Not my first hunt, but is my first opportunity to kill a deer. I remember it was after Christmas. So deer came down, and I shot, and it ran straight towards me. Like it was charging me. I'm in this box blind. I'm like, oh, here we go. And I'm getting all nervous. So I jump up and get out of the blind, and it dies right there. I mean, within 5 yards of the blind.
Oh,
Like,
wow.
okay. And I look over, and there's still a deer on the bait pile. So I'm excited. I try to freehand it. That didn't work out. The second deer didn't make it. So I remember, okay, I got a deer down now. Now what do I do? Like, well, I'll go out and catch Grandpa on his way in. I'm gonna go stand out on the edge of the field here and wait for Grandpa. He heard my shot. He'll be coming. I went out to the edge of that field, and Grandpa wasn't coming. I'm anxious to get my deer out of the woods. I'm like, well, I'll go back in there and drag that deer out here. I'm not gonna lie, I'm a little scared of the dark, especially back then. So that woods got really dark when I was outside waiting in that field. So I decided just to wait a little bit longer for Grandpa to come and come out and help me get this little deer out of the woods. That's my most memorable hunt I can remember. Obviously my first deer with a gun, deer period.
Yeah, that's exciting.
Yeah, he's always been shooting with us. Like I said, I was butchering deer before I could actually hunt them with him and Grandma.
We hunted rabbits
and squirrels. Yep.
Kind of start on the small stuff and then work your way up a little bit.
You know, he had a beagle named Duke. That dog loved running rabbits, and anytime we could, we always brought him out and chased some rabbits around.
He loved his rabbits.
Yep.
So, Steve, how did you get into hunting? I kind of want to hop over to the other side here and kind of get to your background.
I started kind of on my own. Nobody really in my family hunted. My dad hunted a couple of years before I was old enough to, and then he stopped. And I just always liked the outdoors, so it was a natural thing for me to hunt.
Yeah.
But I didn't shoot my first deer until I was probably 23, 24 years old.
Yeah. So you mentioned before we started recording that you kind of have gotten into traditional archery. Have you always been a trad guy, or is that something you kind of picked up later on?
Well, yes and no. I started out, me and my brother, when we were, maybe 7 or 8, our neighbor lady gave us 2 longbows that were her husband's. He had died, and I don't know why, but she gave us these 2 longbows and a quiver full of arrows, and right away my dad took all the broadheads out of there, but he let us play with these bows, and we learned to shoot pretty much on our own because we didn't know anybody that shot archery at that time. And we pretty much taught ourselves, but we both stayed with the traditional archery, other than for a long time I got sucked into the compound world and was shooting compounds. But I got tired of every couple of years I'd have to buy a new bow because there was so much advancements in compounds. They were getting faster and faster. And I thought, oh my God, they're breaking 200 feet per second. Now what, we're over 400?
Yep.
So I went back to the traditional bows.
Yeah.
And actually started making my own bows for friends and family. Oh,
wow. That's really cool. Yeah, I picked up a trad bow. Actually, I won it at a contest thing, and it was an indoor. Ironically, it was an indoor shoot that I used my compound for. But at the end, they had a door prize drawing, and I won a trad bow at it. So
there you go.
I was like, so I shot that thing, and I tell you what, there's a lot of joy involved in shooting a trad bow. It's just a lot of fun going out there. It's just, I don't know, just something different about it. Like you said, kind of going back to just the basics.
Right. Now I was shooting the compounds and stuff for a lot of years while I was in the service and that. And then my wife knew I was interested in the recurve bows, so she bought me one for Christmas. And that got me started back into it, you know. And I don't know if I told you or not, but like both me and my brother stayed with it pretty good. He teaches Joad archery, and I helped with the 4-H archery here in Mesquite County for quite a while.
Good.
It's good to teach kids archery.
It is. Yeah, I have a buddy that gave me a couple little kid-sized recurves, and I mean they're made by 3 Rivers, and they're really nice. And so my daughter, I love taking her out. She can knock it and shoot by herself, and it's just a matter of keeping up the practice and stuff, and making sure she wants to do it, not forcing it. But it is a lot of fun to take your kids out and do that.
I like 3 Rivers. I got a lot of good products they sell.
Yeah. Well, Patrick, I want to hop back over to you. So, so you kind of get into it. Steve kind of gives you the background and gives you the things to go. So let's kind of get into some of your favorite experiences and hunts. What stands out to you is just some of those stories that just mean the most to you?
Well, we'll get to him and I elk hunting in a little while. We'll come back to that. But that was one of my most memorable hunts with the bow. Like I said before, we were able to start bow hunting. We were 12 up here. Rifle hunting, we were 14. It's changed since then, but that's how it started.
Mm-hmm.
I got into rifle hunting. It was easy, and not easy, but I didn't have very much time to hunt. I had the weekends, and if I didn't do good in school, my dad wouldn't let me go on the weekends.
Yeah.
So I shot my first deer with a rifle, and I think I was about 15 or 16. I was getting into the bow hunting. I had I think it was a PSC compound I was shooting. I remember my first couple times I've shot at deer. One of them, my arrow hit about 8 feet up in a tree and stayed there. I get a ladder out there and take it out. I shot another one, made a bad shot on it. She got out in a cornfield and we heard coyotes getting on her. Never found her. And the third time I remember being out there when I was younger with a bow, Grandpa had to go home for something. I think I was just old enough to drive, so I was up there by myself. So I had to either be 15 or 16. I think I was around 15 because we can get a permit then and drive by ourselves, but couldn't have any friends in the vehicle with us. This, that. So I'm sitting out there, and the same spot I shot my first deer with a rifle. I'm up in a tree stand now, and deer come down, and two of them came right into the bay, right next to each other. I said, okay, perfectly broadside shot. I pull back and I release. And I remember watching my fletching go right through that first deer. I'm like, okay, that looked good. And she ran off, and the other one ran off. And so I go up to the property owner and start talking to him. He's like, okay, I'll go help you find your deer. We go back out there and can't find the arrow. I said, this one ran this way. So we started tracking, and he started circling back the other way. He's like, your deer ran this way. I said, no, sir, it ran this way. I'm almost positive. I watched it. I think I watched it crash right over here. So okay, well let's follow that and see what we find. Went over there, found her. Okay, cool. Let's go back and look for my arrow. We got her. I think we drug her to the top of the ridge. She's at the bottom of the ridge. We drug her to the top, left her up there, went back down to look for my arrow, and he's like, there's a blood trail here too. So we started tracking this other blood trail, found my arrow, and about 40, 50 yards after where I originally shot at these deer, there lays another dead deer.
Oh my goodness.
So I passed through one and most of the way through the other one, and she was laying within 70 yards of the original area. I had two deer, my first two deer ever with a bow.
Wow, that is incredible. What's going through your head? Are you like worried, like, oh, I broke some game laws here, or
I wasn't really worried about it because we had plenty of doe tags. It was a farm where we had doe tags, we had crop damage tags we could use and stuff like that. Yeah. So I'm excited. I got two deer. We were raised up to be venison hunters. Horns didn't matter to us. I mean, everybody loves getting horns. Right. Don't get me wrong. I'm on the horn kick now, but back then it really meant if it's brown, it's probably going down. Right. And I think the property owner was more excited than I was. He got an old flip phone, cell phone, said, hey, call your mom up, tell her what just happened. We're in the middle of the woods, just found these two deer. And call my mom up and tell them what happened. And wow. It was a nice experience, a really good experience.
That's awesome, man. That's cool. I've done 138 episodes. I haven't talked to anybody, at least nobody's told me a story about them having a double. That's pretty incredible. Yeah,
and let me say, it wasn't on purpose. When I found that second blood trail, I got nervous. Yeah. I'm like, oh no. I went through this first one. I hit this other one, and who knows where. Yeah. But luckily enough, they were parallel enough to each other. I got through them both. So.
Wow, that's incredible.
Yeah, it was definitely fun.
I told his grandma, can't ever send this kid out in the woods hungry.
Yep.
Brings back a two for one deal, huh?
Yep.
That's cool.
Yep.
Cool. Well, you piqued my interest a minute ago with mentioning elk. So this be maybe a good story to kind of get you both involved. So I don't know who wants to tell which part, but I love elk hunting. I did not go this year. I hope I go next year. So tell us a little bit about your elk trip that you guys took.
It started out, I graduated in 2005 from high school up here. My grandpa has a thing. He has us any grandkids of his. Once you graduate high school, I'll take you on a hunting trip, or I'll take you on a trip, period. And that year was the elk hunt. Yeah. So he got a couple of his buddies together and me, and we drove out to Colorado.
Yeah, we drove out to Colorado on a self-guided elk hunt. We'd been out there before. So
he has been out there.
I had been out there before because me and my buddies used to go out on self-guided elk hunts. And this time I decided to bring Pat, you know, because it was his high school graduation trip. And I made him the caller. He didn't know nothing about elk calls. I tried to tell him what I thought, you know, but he did what he did and it worked.
Well, we stopped on the way out there. Where did we stop at? Cabela's on the way out?
Yeah.
I think it was a Cabela's, and we bought, I think it was a Primo's elk bugle. And I had, and
a hoochie mama call.
And a hoochie mama call.
Yep.
Yep. And it had a little CD player in it, or a CD for your radio. So on the way out to Colorado, I was playing that the whole way, listening to what they sounded like, so I could try to get the gist of it.
Wow.
The elk call was loud in the truck.
Yeah, that's what I was just thinking. I was like, I used to do that, but yeah, I'd roll the windows down a little bit. People at the traffic lights look weird at you. I don't know what the deal is with that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I assume you guys are going out for bow season, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Yep. I think it was
OCC or draw unit?
Over the counter.
Over the counter.
Yep.
Colorado,
That's
over
cool.
the counter.
That's tough, man. That's awesome.
Let's see, we're up on Gore Pass.
Somewhere,
Yeah, we're up on Gore Pass.
Kremlin, Colorado, I think it sticks that little town out there.
Yeah, Kremlin.
But we got out there and set up base camp, or just camp.
Oh, wait a minute. Remember, Bruce couldn't get his truck up the mountain, so we had to send Roger up with the Jeep and hook onto him and pull him up the 2-track.
Oh yeah, Bruce had the little 2-wheel drive S10.
A little 2-wheel drive S10, he couldn't get it up there.
So we got up there. I can't remember the elevation. Do you remember the elevation?
We were about 9,000.
We were up there a little ways, and got camp set up. And the first morning, the first hunt, Grandpa and I went on our own. I think we went by ourselves.
Right.
And we just started. I think we're walking down old logging roads. What we originally planned on doing, stopping and calling every once in a while.
We got a little feedback, but
nothing.
I think they're all cows.
Yeah, cows. And I think we even heard other hunters at one point. I'm not sure how that went. But then we came up to this clearing down on big draw, just a big wide clearing. It looked like what you see in elk videos on YouTube and stuff. Like, okay, well, let's set up here. I sat up in a brush pile about 80 to 100 yards behind you. You sat up at the edge of the woods down at the bottom of the draw.
At the bottom of the draw where they'd have to pass me.
Yep. And I started calling. I heard them CD on the way out there. Go ahead.
I could see 3 or 4 elk moving around in there, and there were small bolts, right? And it had to have 3 points on one side to shoot, right? And he called this. He called this one bullet came out, and I'm watching it, and it walks right by me.
Within 10 yards, wasn't it?
Well, it was within 20 yards.
Within 20 yards, yeah.
Within 20 yards, but the rack on my side only had 2 points, right? And I couldn't make out if there's a 3rd point on that other side or not.
Yeah.
So I got up to him and near him, and then it turned around and it came back. When it came back, I seen it had a 3rd legal point on that far side. Now that was on my side. So I did a shot. It was a little farther than I'd like. You know, it's more about a 30-yard shot, which is more than I'd like to take. I like to keep it to 20, but it's a little bigger target than a deer.
He's out there.
Right.
Yeah, I got a traditional bow and some nice bright yellow fletched arrows, and I got to watch that arrow fly straight and true right over his back.
I got the same view.
Oh man.
Then it got exciting. Then we heard a hell of a noise, a heck of a noise. And I looked towards Pat, it's over by Pat, and there's a big bull right behind him. I mean, like 10 yards right behind him.
I felt the ground shake.
Oh my gosh.
I did no idea he was there. I felt the ground shake. And I went to go switch my calls and see if I can get that the bull he just shot at back out. When I went to go switch my calls, I felt the ground shake and I heard rustling behind me. I turned around. All I see is the butt of this elk running away from me with his head back, and his horns touching his hind quarters.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
And at least a 4x4. He could have been 5. He was a big bull.
He's big, got his head all thrown back like they do running through the aspens.
Yeah.
Wow, that's an incredible experience.
Yeah.
Then I was designated caller the rest of the weekend, or the rest of the week we were up there.
Yeah, he was calling a little unorthodox, but I cannot say that it didn't work. It worked
Yeah.
good.
We called in out, what,
A couple different
a
times.
few different times while we were up there. We didn't get any luck. No, all four of us, we didn't have any luck, but just the experience being out there with the guys camping, seeing out, calling out. They weren't bugling back or anything too much. Just seeing, we seen them. We had a spike come in that one day. I drew back on it, but then when I turned to look at me, I seen that I had spikes. I couldn't shoot a spike. I could shoot a cow, but couldn't shoot a spike.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was just fun being out there, hanging out with the guys. I'm 18 years old, just started high school, just hanging out.
That's a great gift coming out of high school. I got to tell you, just I wish I would have started back then, just because now it's like you got wife, kids, responsibilities, and bills,
Right.
and it's like, man, I would love to go every year, but just not in the cards, But I tell you, it's just neat getting out there, and for me, growing up, my dad went elk hunting, and it was just I wanted to go out and just hear a bugle. That was it. Like I want to go out and just hear that bugle. I'll start with that, and then we'll go from there. And in 2016, I went second rifle season. Didn't hear a bugle. It was too late, of course. But 2019, I went, and on the second day, I was driving back roads trying to stir up one, and sure enough, he rips a bugle down below me, and it just an incredible. There's just nothing like that noise. My wife says it's probably next to turkeys, probably the most annoying thing for her to hear inside the house. She's not a big fan of, the turkey. So
Yeah.
even if I go to the basement, she still hears that bugle roar, I guess. So that's why I'm in my car doing it. That's awesome. Great experience. Well, Steve, I want to jump back over to you again. We got time for here, maybe a couple more stories. So with your trad bow, you mentioned hunting bears and maybe caribou, some of those kind of experiences. So we can still talk whitetails. I mean, it is whitetail season. So whatever comes to your mind, what story maybe is just one of your favorite traditional archery experiences that you've had?
Geez, probably bear hunting, because to me, bears and bows go together.
Yeah.
They really do. And I don't know where I should start on that, but these the first bear I ever shot was not with a bow, it was with a rifle. But it's a good story. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I was out in Michigan, it's northern peninsula, all the way over in the West End. My first time up there bear hunting, and I was having a hard time with the crows, because the crows would call at you and stuff, right? And we had one active bait, and that was real active. It was getting hit during the daytime, where most of them were evening baits. So I slid out there early in the day and got in on that bait, and I told them, come out and relieve me about noon so I can get something to eat, right? Well, they forgot about me.
Oh no.
I was there all day, but I had to trick those crows. So I had to kind of break a little hole in the brush where I could see the bait. And I had to lay in the ground like I was dead, half asleep, and I'd just open one eye every once in a while and look at the bait. So the crows, I couldn't move because the crows would spot me. I didn't have a pop-up blind or nothing. I'm just laying in the open under the secondary underbrush. Okay.
Wow.
And I laid there all day like that, just opening my eye every few minutes and looking. As long as I could hear the crows on that bait, I didn't have to worry about it. I knew there was no bear.
Oh, okay.
And as soon as the bear would come in, them crows would take off. But you got to fool the crows. And the crows got good eyes, because there'd be a dozen of them eating on the bait. Well, I guess that up there, they're not really crows, they're raven.
Okay.
Which is a little bit bigger version of a crow. And they'll have a couple guards up in the trees watching. But anyway, a bear came in there about 10 o'clock in the morning, and I was just about to get on him. He didn't come all the way into the bait. He looked around like, something don't look right here, turned around and walked out. I'm like, darn, So then I sat there all day, and he came back about 5, 6 o'clock at night, come back like an hour and a half before sunset. He'd come back, and he came, the crows all flew off, got quiet, the bear comes walking in and he's doing the same thing. He's looking around like something ain't right. So I got my rifle up in the crock of a tree and I'm eyeballing him real good. And I could see that look on his face. He was going to turn and leave again, right? He tipped his head down to turn and leave, and I shot him right in the top of the head when he put his head down. It was about a 75-yard shot.
Wow.
And there's no chasing. He just piled right there.
That's awesome. That's really cool. I've never heard of, I guess never thought about the crows and that strategy. That's pretty neat to think of that. Like you can,
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
You got to use nature to your advantage, I guess.
Yeah, that's awesome. So you go from that, you've got to get super close with a trad bow. So I got to hear at least one story about how did you get one with a trad bow?
Give them the camp story, Bo. With the trad bow you made.
All right, I'll give you the camp bear. I caught the camp bear. We were we went on a spring hunt, me and my buddy up to Ontario, and he shot an enormous bear with his crossbow, right? And I passed up some bears because I was looking for a book bear. I wanted to shoot a Popignon bear with my bow. And I didn't see any that I knew were. I had shot some that were close before. I didn't want to make that mistake again, you know. So I passed up a bunch of them. And then I didn't get any. And the outfitter was a good guy. And he said, come back for the fall hunt. He said, and if you shoot a bear, you just pay me a $500 trophy. And I was like, well, that's fair enough. You know, an extra $500 compared to nothing. Yeah, I'll do that. Yeah. And we came back up and we camped out. We camped out and hunted with him. And he had the baits and everything. And we would do our own bait running with the quads. But my buddy had already shot his bear, but he came back with me because he was going fishing every day, walleye fishing. So when I got home back to camp from hunting, I had fresh walleye every night. It was good.
That's a good deal.
But anyway, there was a bear bothering our camp. And this bear, when I'm out hunting, would come into camp and be tearing it up. And it wasn't afraid of anybody. And it was bothering my buddy. And it tore up our truck and stuff like this. And there was some ladies that had been pushing a baby up and down the road in a stroller. I didn't like that because this bear's not afraid, right? So anyway, I go out to hunt, and I'm up in my tree, and this bear comes in, and he walks maybe 10 yards side of my tree stand, goes out to the bait. That's about 15 yards. I eyeball him, look him over real good. He might be book, he might not, he's close, you know, and I decide not to shoot him. So to thank me for that, he comes back around, climbs up the back of my tree, climbs up my tree. I don't do like most guys. As soon as I hear the bark on the tree, I jump up and yell at him because I don't want him coming up above me, right? And his head's about level with my feet when he stops. And it's funny because he looks at me and you can see this in his eyes, this look like, oh no, what did I do? What is this? And he backs down the tree, but then he don't want to leave. He's pacing back and forth in the woods, right? And it's starting to get a little dusky and I'm starting to get a little nervous about it, but I gotta come out of that tree sometime, you know? So I climbed down and walked out. He didn't bother me. Went back to camp, and that bear had been back again, tormenting my buddy. So the next day I was getting ready to go out hunting, and the bear came into camp, right? And he's getting into stuff. And I went and got my bow, and I got it, and I yelled at him because I wanted to be ready in case he charged, because we didn't have any guns. All I had was a bow, one bow, right? And that bear just looked at me like, who do you think you are? So I said, well, I'll show you who I am. And I shot him. He ran off because he was a problem bear. I was worried about him hurting people, you know,
right,
at a campsite there. But it's not like a campground. It's just a place. you pull off the side of the road
Right.
where you camp, so people aren't there all the time. But somebody had been feeding that bear at one time. But anyway, we found that bear, and then I was nervous. It's like, dang, I got to pay $500 for this bear. It's only like a 180-pound bear, maybe 2 or 3 years old.
Yeah.
I said, well, I guess it's going to be what it's going to be. So I took it back to the outfitter and went to pay him, and he was a good guy. He said, you know what? That's a bear that bit my gas tank on my boat. He said, $200 is all you owe me, Steve.
That's awesome.
He's a good guy. Yeah, he said that bear actually bit the gas tank on his boat. And I would think, why would they bite a gas tank? But it punctured holes in his gas can for his boat.
Gosh, that's no good. Yeah.
That was
Wow.
with the longbow that you made yourself. Right?
Yeah, that was with a longbow I made myself, a 60-pound cedar wood longbow that my wife had bought the materials from Three Rivers as a kit, right?
Yeah.
One year for Christmas, she bought me this longbow kit. Here's your longbow. Well, then you got to build an oven, right? Then you got to build a mold.
Yeah.
Then you got to get a drill press. Then you need a sanding machine. And there's a lot of things you need to build this bow. So she thought she was doing me a really big favor when she bought me this, $150 bow kit, right?
Yeah.
But I wound up spending like $1,000 before it was all over.
It just led to a wormhole kind of.
It did, but a lot of our family members have nice custom bows now.
Nice. That's awesome. That's really cool. That's really neat that you know how to do that. It's a neat skill, and man, that's an awesome story. The camp bear. Well, Patrick, let's jump back over to you to wrap it all up. So you're the guy that sent me the email, so I'm sure that you've probably got some extra stories too. So let's wrap up with you. Last maybe story or two that kind of comes to mind for you that just put the icing on the cake here.
Well, I shot those first 2 deer with my bow when I was like 15 or 16. I had an accident at work it was 2010. I lost the vision of my right eye. I had a chain binder slap me, and long story short, I lost my vision. And I was right-handed up until that point. So I'm like, okay. And I decided I wanted to get back into bow hunting a little bit. The last, I don't know, probably about 5 years ago. So I decided to pick up a crossbow. Now it's legal for us in Michigan to use a crossbow. And I sat with it a couple times, and it wasn't for me. I didn't feel the same excitement I did with the compound, being up in the tree stand and having to wait for them deer to come in there, not pulling a trigger. I said, okay. Well, my wife and I, my brother-in-law lived down in Indiana. We were down there in the flea market one day and found a nice bare left-handed compound bow. I said, okay, pretty nice compound bow. We picked it up. Started hunting with that last year. Decided, okay, I ended up shooting 1 deer last year with it. It made it down to a big river I hunt by and slid into the river and got away on me. Floated somewhere, gone. So fast forward to this year, our bow season starts October 1st. And first weekend, I seen deer. We had the area I'm hunting is a core chronic wasting disease area in Michigan.
Okay.
So we had to have 4 points on one side to be able to shoot a buck up there. So I said, let's sit over here, and been seeing bucks here all year. I had the kids on the youth hunt, seeing bucks out on that area. So I'm seeing a lot of 3-4 points. I had a nice 6-point come through. Came in within 10 yards of me, big wide 6, but I could not make another time grow on them. I tried my darndest to make that. So I said, okay, let them go. And I've been listening to your podcast quite a bit. And I've heard you talk before about you like shooting a doe. If you're going to shoot a doe early in the season before the rut starts. So yeah. Let's do that. Let's knock the stank off this bow and shoot me a deer. It can be, of course, a sublegal deer, but a buck, but it can be a doe. Of course, no does are coming close enough to me. I got all these little bucks coming in with 10 yards from me and stuff, and just no does. Well, last weekend, I decided I've been seeing these deer up by those apple trees. And I'm gonna go see if I can just get me a doe. I don't have a tree stand set up there. I don't use a climber. I'm not in the saddle hunting, nothing like that yet. So I'm looking from the driveway and like, okay, where do I want to go? They go here. So and I think they come from this direction. So I'm gonna tuck up in these bushes and just see what happens. So I tuck up with these bushes and break some limbs to see what I can see. I'm expecting them to come from behind me and circle around, so I'll be able to get a draw on them while they're walking by me. And the first deer I seen, I think I had this guy on camera, come straight on from underneath the apple trees, coming straight for me. And I'm thinking to myself, I'm not counting points at this time. I know it's him, big, wide 10. I'm like, oh, here we go. So as soon as he clears some apple trees, I know he's going to see me because I got brushed, but I'm in the open. So I get full drawn on him. He steps out, and he's quartering to me pretty hard. I let the arrow fly, and I heard a thwack. My light up knock. I never see my light up knock light up, and I'm trying these new light up knocks. I had to put an insert in my arrow. He runs off anyways. I watch him stop about 50 yards away from me, and he just kind of walks away. Okay, well, let's go see what happened. Go down there, I find my arrow broken too. No blood, nothing on it, no hair, no blood around. My knock is gone. So I'm thinking the insert wasn't right, or something to do with the knock wasn't right. I'm like, oh, well, bummer. I was pretty upset, not mad. It was still fun. I had a blast. I haven't been bow hunting since I was 16 years old. I'm back in the woods. I'm flinging arrows. I'll give another chance. It's early.
And you got to see a big one.
Oh yeah, the big one. I didn't expect to see him in this end of the property at all. I was like, okay, he's around. I moved my trail cameras to see if I can get some more pictures on them, but that's another story. They're back in a different area now.
Yeah,
it's okay. I flung an arrow this season. That's great. So that was Saturday night last weekend. Sunday night, I went up. My brother helped me during the day set up a tree stand up there in a tree. I wanted to put a tree stand up. We're only able to get the tree stand up about 8-10 feet up in this maple tree, just because of limbs. I didn't bring a chainsaw to cut any limbs. And it's a ladder stand. I said, okay, we'll make it work. There's a lot more cover here than I had over in that brush. Sitting there Sunday night, had a big doe come in. Where I originally thought they were gonna come in Saturday night, but they come in. She comes in with 2 yearlings. Like, well, I'm gonna shoot whatever. I know that big buck's still here, but it's still early in the season. I want to get the stank off my bow. Let's shoot a deer. So I draw back on her, and she's walking towards the apple trees. I had a grunt stopper. Gave her a little grunt. She stops right there. I let the arrow fly, and this time the light up knock lit, went right over her back.
oh no.
I share the 2 yearlings, run out in the field, and stay out there. I'm like, oh, geez, and they're out 120 yards or so. I go, okay. This is not over yet. We still got a couple hours, or probably an hour left of daylight. So I'm sitting there, and I'm watching her with binoculars a little bit. Just kind of, I got a new set of binoculars I'm trying out. Watching her, and she's looking out behind her to the south a little ways. There's some crashing going through the brush. I'm like, there's a deer moving through here now. Well, I heard those deer came through behind me and walked away. I'm kind of trying to still see them behind me. I can't see them at all. And I turn back around, and 2 yearlings come back up within 10 yards of my light up knock right in the deer runway down there. That's still glowing bright as day down there. We got about a half hour left of daylight now. I'm thinking to myself, it's Sunday night. I got to work Monday morning. I got to go home. 2 yearlings, both broadside. I got 1 arrow left. Might as well try it again. So I pull it back, and I think my problem why I went over that first doe was I didn't compensate for being up in a tree stand. Even though it was an 8-foot tree stand, I didn't compensate for the drop. So that's why I shot over it. So I compensated for the shot. I dropped a little bit on this little yearling, let the arrow fly, whack. I heard the nice sound you want to hear when you throw an arrow at a deer. Okay, let's go see what happens. I get down. I'm excited. I'm not patient. I get down right away almost. I heard the one come up behind me and start blowing at me. I didn't hear the second one. One went into the swamp and one came up around me.
Mm-hmm.
So we walk over. I walk over looking for my arrow. Can't find the arrow. Pick up my other arrow, turn the light off, put it back in my quiver, and go back over where I thought she was. I find some blood. So, oh, okay, I got this one. I hit this one. Called my stepdad. Said, hey, I got some blood. You want to come up and help me? And it takes a moment to get out there to me, but so I track this deer a little ways, and I'm excited. I shouldn't be tracking my own deer. It's just I got excited. So I put my head down where I found the last blood, And then he finally comes up, and he's like, he thought I told him I had one down. He's ready to come up and just help me pick one up. No, we got to track it. He's okay. So we start tracking. And about 40 yards after I shot her, I found my arrow. Blood from the tip to the knock, all the way through. I was using a expandable broadhead, and it went all the way through her, but it didn't exit until she ran a few yards.
Okay.
Well, tracked another 10 yards after the arrow, and there she was laying in the grass. Just just a little doe, but it's my first deer in almost 20 years with a bow. And
left-handed too.
Left-handed, yeah. Yep.
Wow.
It was awesome.
That's awesome, man. Way to go. That's exciting. I mean, it's disheartening whenever you hit one and you're not able to find it and that whole deal and that frustration, but to hang in there and make it happen, that's exciting.
It's amazing. I'm glad to get that first one back underneath my belt again.
Yeah. I just did an episode with my buddy, and he had to have shoulder surgery, and he wasn't sure. It's Travis Shire. Guy shoots trad, and he wasn't sure if he'd ever shoot any bow again, maybe a crossbow, but Trav loves to shoot traditional archery. And so kind of that feeling of frustration and all that, but then him kind of getting back into it. And then just a couple weeks ago, he shoots his first deer this year, which was a buck. And so something like when you lose that ability, losing your right eye, being able to swap over, it's like, hey, it's just good to be out there and go hunting. It makes you appreciate it.
It does.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's awesome. Well, guys, what's the plan for the rest of the season? Are we into the whitetails now, and any more bear hunts on the horizon? What we got going on for the rest?
No bear hunts. I didn't draw a tag this year, and due to COVID, the Canadian border was closed.
Bummer. Yep. Bummer.
Maybe next year.
But bucks on the horizon, right?
I hope so.
Bucks on the horizon.
I know you say don't get into filming, but I'm actually wanting to film my girls this year. So I want to get that memory and bring it home to the wife and show her the excitement. Both these girls this year broke out into tears when they got their deer this year. So I want to share it. I want to remember it a little bit more. So I hope to get some more hunts on film besides my little Android phone I got.
Yeah. Filming, it is fun. I tell you what, I love to do it. I love that moment. I try and make it not get in the way. Sometimes it has. But my doe I shot this year, everything was great except that whole pressing the record button twice kind of deal. I messed that up, but it's fun. It's fun going out there and looking back on the memories and those moments that you make. And it just sounds like you all are a hunting family and you guys enjoy it together, which is pretty special.
Anytime we gather together, we do ice fishing together. We love ice fishing up here, and any excuse to be out in the woods, we usually try to find it.
That's what it is. It's an excuse to be out in God's country.
Yeah. Enjoying all that. Well, Patrick, I want to say thanks for reaching out, and Steve, thank you for coming on, and good job with those girls, raising them up right, getting them in the outdoors, giving them those opportunities. I want to wish you guys a really good rest of the season. Be safe out there, and good luck with whatever goes on. All right.
Thank you, Travis. You too. Good luck, man.
All right. We'll see you guys later. All right.
Yep. Bye, man.
Bye.